Greetings. This is a podcast series by Ramaiah College of Law, where we have a distinguished alumni talking about law and their career. Today we have with us Raghav Muthanna, partner at CMS IndusLaw. Welcome, Raghav.
Thank you, Ignorami.
So, to begin with, you have started off in a firm and you've become partner. So, you stayed in firm and you've not transitioned into an in-house role, unlike many others are doing today. So, what made you take this decision to stick to the in-firm role or to stay in the same path?
So honestly, I stumbled upon this career trajectory that I am on by default and not really by choice, right? So when I graduated back in 2014, I was a student who hadn't taken my career too seriously, right? I mean, I had done some things right, but my academics weren't that great. I hadn't done enough on the side to have actually kind of upskilled to a level that my peers in other colleges were, right? So I took the first job that I got, the first job being quite decent. I had luckily, what had worked for me was that I had done a couple of good internships. And so that kind of helped me bag my first job, right? And that was a small boutique law firm where I did a lot of corporate law. Then my second job, I moved to another smaller firm that had just begun, but the nature of work they did, while interesting, they had a more relaxed environment. The pay wasn't the best, all of that. So for some reason, I felt like I was wasting a little bit of time over there, and which is why I wanted to immediately move to a bigger organization, right? And luckily, the learnings from my first job and to an extent even from my second job helped me bag a bigger opportunity. And that's when I moved to Dua Associates and I worked there for a bit, right? So I think the initial days, sometimes you don't have control of, because what I'm thinking today and what I want to do tomorrow may be different from what I actually end up doing 5 years from now, right? But then that being said, today, of course, many years into the profession, I found my calling. I found something that I'm comfortable doing, and yeah, something that you like, you enjoy, and as long as you find that passion, I think ultimately it doesn't matter how you got there. So yeah, that's.
So looking ahead, do you think you're going to stick to the law firm job, or would you transition anytime in the future?
So I have on multiple occasions contemplated shifting in-houses, right? And the common myth always has been that an in-house job is lighter, it's easier. That's not necessarily always the case. Of course, you may get slightly better work-life balance in certain organizations. But you've also seen the other end of the spectrum where, because there's so many law firm folks moving to in-house jobs, the culture in a lot of in-house jobs also almost appears to be the same in many senses. So, and there's different sorts of pressures in an in-house job. So I don't think I've found the need to actually move because unless something's broken, why fix it, right? So yeah, I've been fairly okay. Of course, there are days you crib, but I'm sure you crib at any job, right? So yeah, that's that.
Okay, so at Indus, you are dealing with TMT, which is technology, media, and fintech. So technology is advancing at such a fast rate that you blink twice, there's something new, there's a new software, or there is a new startup altogether. So how do you stay adept with the technological advancements or dealing with legal problems with these advancements?
Right. So, I mean, quite frankly, I'm a little technologically handicapped, not necessarily a lot. But that being said, of course, it's in the nature of job that I am in. It becomes extremely important for you to be able to understand the business of your client, right? And so if my clients are in the tech space, obviously it becomes important for me to understand what kind of software they're launching, what kind of product that is, right? Because unless I truly understand the nature of their product and what they're trying to achieve, it's impossible for me to advise them accurately from a legal standpoint, right? On whether they're breaching any law, or whether there's any legal risks or issues in what they intend on doing. And it could be on so many fronts. It could be from a data standpoint, it could be on copyright standpoint, it could be various other things, right? So it's important that with time you also keep track, because even your client expects you to kind of be well versed with what's happening in the industry and to be able to understand his product. Right, so it's important in general, and of course, a lot of the kind of work that I do, maybe because I've been doing it for so long, I'm fairly comfortable understanding it. And in general, it's a curiosity from my personal curiosity also to try and be adept and keep in touch with what's happening in the market, whether it's from a legal standpoint or whether it's just business, right? On what are the new things that's happening. So yeah, but very important to definitely be abreast of the developments that are happening around.
So on that note, when we look at technological advancement, is it always the case that an advancement in technology brings with it a truckload of legal problems? Or has there been an instance in your career where the solution has been a technological advancement?
So both. Now, obviously, with the evolution of, let's say, AI today, right? That has brought in a lot of legal challenges. So there are challenges from a data leakage perspective. In a world where data privacy and protection is very important, right? AI has definitely brought in that issue. There's issue from an IP infringement perspective, right? Whether it's copyright, whether it's personality rights. Today you have deep fakes and various other things that's impersonating celebrities, right? And there's so many cases currently going on in relation to that. So depending on who you're advising, whether you're advising the person who's been impacted by this breach, it could be a company, it could be a individual, right? Or the company that's actually developing these softwares, it's important that we kind of float with the situation. We are able to kind of immediately think of innovative solutions to kind of fix the problem, right? So some of that innovative solution itself could be a technology-led solution, or some of it, vice versa, is just, again, like I said, depending on who you're advising, we have to figure out a balance, right? Maybe some things you just can't do, right? And that's where we see guidance from the law, right? In fact, recently, just 2 days back, MeTi came up with a new AI governance guidance that kind of gives us some framework on how to govern AI, right? And so yeah, we take guidance from the law. Luckily, today the regulators also extremely smart. They're well versed technologically, so they understand what are the problem statements and they understand what are the ways to try and solve for them. And yeah, I think a combination of the law, market practice, all of that, we also try and find innovative solutions too for innovative problems.
Okay. So you've also written and spoken widely about the emerging legal issues. How important do you think is public speaking or writing on these emerging legal issues when it comes to building your career or your personal branding?
Extremely important. So again, when you're starting afresh, or let's say when you're a law student, it becomes important to kind of gather some traction, visibility, and that could be by building your CV, or it could be by any form of public attention, right? Whether it could be just writing publications, articles, whatever, or actually going for seminars, speaking on debates, all of that. Similarly, as you transition into a career in law, as a junior associate, the expectation always is to just deliver on work, right? So you don't have to worry about bringing in work, all of that. That's not a concern. From your organization also, the expectation is that you just deliver on the work that's given to you, right? But as you go along, as you become a senior associate in an organization, a principal associate in an organization, and of course, once you become a partner, it becomes important. And this is inherently, you will, a self-realization kicks in that you have to, it's great to work and grow with an organization, but you would want your personal brand also to grow, because that's the only way for you to sustain in a legal firm setup. Right, and that's really the goal that most people try, and including myself, we go out. I go for events as often as I can, or if I get invited, or whenever time permits. And I try and participate in conferences, seminars, etc. And similarly, I'm sure many of my peers in the industry also do the same. It's definitely a value add.
All right. So a quick question is, many of the law students have this doubt of whether a master's in law would add value when it comes to a corporate job.
So the yes and no, really, because depending on the law college that you go to, if you go to a law school, let's say a London School of Economics, or you go to your Columbia's and your Oxford and your Harvards, that definitely adds value, right? But if you go to a smaller law school or something, I mean, let's assume you've already graduated from a national law school in India, and then you simply go abroad just to do an LLM for the sake of doing an LLM, it may not really add too much value. But when you're upskilling from a smaller college and you go abroad and do a master's at a good college outside, that definitely opens doorways because you're exposed to a lot of things, to practices, to learnings that you may not have had privy to back in the law school in India, right? So that exposure helps definitely. From a career perspective, if I'm a working professional who's already worked at a law firm for a few years, if I then opt to do an LLM, it may not necessarily enhance my whatever position, position within an organization when I come back, right? It's a different thing if I want to settle abroad, then of course that's different goals in life. But if I were already working at my current organization for a few years and then I go and do a master's, of course, like I said, some things you still get that exposure, but if you're expecting to come back at a better position because you've upskilled, unfortunately, it doesn't work like an MBA, right? In an engineering job or other professions, sometimes you go abroad, you do an MBA, you come back with a better position sometimes, right? And unfortunately, that's not how it works, at least in the legal fields, because I think experience really takes top priority more than anything else.
Okay. So speaking about experience, no matter how accomplished you are in your career, there's always that one moment where you think that I wish I knew this earlier. So is there any instance where you felt, I wish I knew this earlier, or someone had told me about this, I would have saved so much of time or resources, or I would have done things better?
Yeah, that's a feeling you get quite often, right? So because there's always something new you learn later on, which maybe other people knew much before you, right? So it could be, I mean, strictly from a professional sense itself, there could be so many things that I should have known or I could have known much earlier in life, right? But it took me forever to actually pick up these things or realize that these things exist. So it could be simple. It could be something as simple as just learning of a regulation that always existed, but for some reason you never really spent too much time on. Right? Or it could be the usage of a certain software, or let's say something as simple as, for many years, I didn't even know shortcut keys in a laptop.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, so there could be various things that could have eased your process, or that some are just small things like a shortcut key nobody really cares about, but some things could have professionally enhanced your career in many ways. So those are...
Like, for example, I think networking was it's been a boon nowadays with LinkedIn and...
Yeah, I think back when I graduated, I don't think too many people emphasize on networking. Also maybe because I was at a position where you didn't think about networking. But as you climb up the ladder, like I said, sometimes the one way to grow is to network. Today, people have that context of much earlier in life, because in college itself, if you want to get a job, you're living in the age of social media, digital media, where people stand out, where you see hundreds of people giving their opinions on some subject, right? So I think in today's day and time, it's important that, like you said, there are things, but I don't think I regret that so much. I mean, that aspect of it, I don't think I regret so much.
All right. But, so before we wrap up, one last question. As an alumni of Ramaiah College of Law, is there any advice you would give to your younger self when you started college?
So I think today, thankfully, I do not have too many regrets now.
Okay.
Right. And that's only because I think fortunately things have kind of fallen in the right places and it worked out reasonably well. But that may not necessarily have always been the case. So there were many situations where it could have gone either way, where I was not really happy at a particular job, or not happy in the kind of work I was doing, or whatever it is, right? So it's a very small thing that can sway you towards either thing, right? One small decision could have swayed me into actually taking a totally different stream of work, right? Like, for example, when I graduated itself, the first interview I had was with the litigation firm, where I cracked the interview also and I got a job. I was supposed to start, in fact, like the next month, and then I just decided to back off for whatever reason, because I got So had I chosen that, I would have been today in a totally different situation. And you don't know, where maybe you would have done really well, maybe not. So I think where my chips have fallen, I'm glad where they have.
So it's glad you were glad that you didn't go for it.
Yeah, I'm glad with whatever mistakes I've made in the past that have led me to wherever I am today.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Raghav.
Thank you, Gnanavi. Thank you.
To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Signing off, Gnanavi Bopaya. We'll catch you in the next episode.